So I had a rather intense few years. I'm doing a lot of caregiving. My father died after 3 years of terminal cancer. Um, my marriage ended. I moved for the first time in 20 years. Another two family members died. Pandemic. It was a lot. And I thought about doing a sequel to Why We Can't Sleep and doing something about women now, grappling with all these issues. And I thought about doing another memoir, like about divorce. And I thought about all these different things. And what I wound up doing, which was so liberating, was I made a romance novel where the it was, it sounds a little like a memoir. I am told. It is in the first person. It is a character who is unnamed, but is rather shaped more or less like me, but who's grappling with all these questions in a way that I hope is actually propulsive and fun, and not a slog, and not a reported piece that tells us what we know, which is it's hard. It's hard to be middle aged, and this character in the book gets to have this very passionate, very sexy experience that, yes, winds up with the marriage in turmoil, but also returns her to herself in this way that I think is quite a victory. Like, I don't particularly want to talk about every fight that I have had in my life with loved ones. I don't really want to talk about these things and just say, and then here this person did this and I did this. So I got to just have it be these characters, and I got to make it all play out in a way that made sense, that had a nice arc to it, that I thought was fun. It was fun to write, fun to read, even though it goes to a lot of dark places too, but that's life. There's some about grief, because I think grief and love are really interconnected, and there's a lot of philosophy in it. So, like, a lot of books quoted, because that's what I do in life, is just throw books at problems, right? I like have a library card, and so there's no problem I cannot solve, and that's what this character does. So, and one thing I like is when in a novel the reader is a little smarter than the character. Like, you were along for the ride, and there was an element of, don't go in the house. And so that was also kind of fun, to make the character be somebody who's trying to figure it out, and maybe making occasionally very dumb choices, but very earnestly trying to be good and also true to herself. Every book I've done has been completely different, and this one was not outlined at all. So I mean, one thing that I like for sure a memoir or a novel to feel like you're figuring it out with the character. And so for me, with my memoir and then with this book also, it was really about just like trying to kind of write it in order of the things I knew, I wanted to have happen in the book, and to have it have a kind of a consistent through line, like to have an arc. But no, I didn't plan out in advance, but like with St. Mark's Dead, I did. I had 1,000 index cards, and they had, because it was so much to keep track of in a history of New York City. I had every character, and I had every place, and I had different years, and I just did this multicolored, rather beautiful, I think, outline in cards, and I used that, and it was really helpful. But for my last two books, no, I didn't plan it out at all. Well, so people don't behave the way you want them to. I've noticed in life, and in doing a memoir, when I was doing this book about my father and his favorite poet, I often wanted him to behave differently for the book. I thought, okay, you're dying. We should have this conversation in which you are nice to me. And then that will give me a very nice ending for the book. And won't we all be happy with that? And it will just bring it to this nice landing point. And he would not do it, because he did not want to serve my book in by his form of conversation. And it was not true to who he was, right? Like, if character is fate, he was not the guy who was going to sit me down and tell me how very proud he was, and how he was so sorry for XYZ. It just wasn't the kind of person he was. So I had to work around reality in the memoir to try to find an ending that I liked. And that ending in that book wound up being something where I went back and looked differently at our at the tapes I found moments where he and I had had actually sweet times together. I was 2, and, but it was really quite nice. So that's what I used at the end of that book. In fiction, oh boy, you can do whatever you want, right? So I could create the arc I wanted. I could make the people in the book say and do what I wanted. I didn't have to go do 1,000 interviews to get the 50 quote. And what a gift. Wow. And I realized too that, by the way, that I have novelist friends and they're like, yes, that is what fiction is. Like you can make things up. And I'm like, wow, did you know about this? It's really cool. I'm like, yes, we knew.